You guys ready? I'd like to call the Smithfield Town Council meeting to order, April 15, 2025. There were no votes taken in executive session. The prayer. Dear Father, grant us your grace and patience to listen to empathy and understanding to one another's perspectives. May our words be fulfilled with honesty as we communicate and guide us. We thank you, Lord. Amen. Salute your flag. Number 4, emergency evacuation and health notification. In the event there's an emergency in the council chambers has to be evacuated. There's 2 exits, one to the very rear. We see the exit sign. If you go through those doors, the stairway is immediately to the right, brings you out to the front of the building. And then if you look at the front of the stage, to my right, there's another exit sign, and that brings you out to the side of the building. Do not use the elevators in event of emergency. Ladies' room and men's room, if you go through the rear doors of the chamber, on the right is the men's room, and up the 2 stairs on the left is the ladies' room. Thank you, Chief. Number 5, presentations, Gemini Housing Authority.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Joseph Tadino. I'm the attorney for Gemini Housing. I just wanted to bring the council up to date since the purchase and sale agreement was signed on September 24th. There's been a lot of activity. We have architectural plans, preliminary plans by Secotio Associates for 51 bedroom apartments and a 2-bedroom apartment. That would consist of 2 buildings. The 29 units would be in the school, and there'd be another building for the 22 units. We've had phase 1 and phase 2 environmental testing done. That revealed, well, the worst thing was the underground storage fuel tank, and we don't know if that's leaking at this point or not. That will have to have further testing. But inside the house, they did, inside the building, they did find asbestos, lead, and mercury. The 2 funding applications have been submitted so far. These were for pre-development funding to Rhode Island Housing and LISC. Title search was also done, and that revealed a slight issue, which I'll speak to further on in this presentation. There is do each of you have this Windsor School update? Did any of you have this?
We don't have anything.
All right, let me give that to you. Page 2 in this packet shows an estimated timeline of still everything that has to be done. Civil engineering, traffic study, landscaping, zoning board, which would be planning board. So those are still outstanding. I have Seth Sokoloff here, which he will speak next toward the funding aspect of this. Seth, you want to come up?
Hi, I'm Seth Sokoloff with Barbara Sokoloff Associates. Pleasure to be back and see you all again. So Joe, I'm speaking to the financing. Joe referenced the pre-development applications that we have. Both are still pending. We also applied through the town for CDBG funds. And as it says in that synopsis that you've received, we did not receive the CDBG funds this round because of the window that they want to see within which the benefit to low moderate income is achieved. So it's just the timeline was too long this year. It's quite possible next year we would receive those funds when we can show that the project will be constructed and occupied within the timeframe that the folks at CDBG are looking for.
Those are federal funds
Those are through the state.
through the state?
Through the state,
Who
but-
decides when you get the money?
So that has been HRC, Housing and Resources Commission, but they're now under the Department of Housing. It's
So the
Department
state
of Housing.
decides?
Yes.
The state decides. What percentage of your financing is from the state?
So do you mean that particular tranche or all state funds? So that particular tranche of the CDBG was just 600 or so thousand, and we were hoping that that would cover the acquisition of the school to take that off the table. Other than that, many of the funds that are proposed for the next funding round, which will be in November, would be state funds, probably 60% issued through the state, either Department of Housing or Rhode Island Housing.
So what is the effect on the project of not having received these funds?
The CDBG?
The CDBG? Those are the only funds
Sure.
that you applied for that you didn't get,
Correct,
that you were
correct.
expecting, right? Am
So
I correct?
there's, the only
Yep.
effect is that we can't say, take down the property sooner. We would still in any case be waiting for full project funding to move the project forward. So that CDBG was going to ballpark here 5% of the funds?
Right. Well, you mean, so you can't pay the town for the property sooner? Is that what you mean?
That is what we were proposing to use those funds for, but I don't think we would have actually done that until we had the project
So
fully
is
funded.
is that going to delay the project?
No. No, would you like to take a look at the timeline in that chart on the,
Sure.
so basically what we're looking for pre-development funds for is to get us to that July 25 planning board submission. Getting approval from the planning board would be critical to the November 25 consolidated funding application. So that funding application is not going to go in sooner than November in any case. That's when the round is expected to be open.
So-
Weren't you getting a couple other funding sources as well? I do recall, was there like a total of 3 or 4
For the full project?
for the full project? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I would, the low-income housing tax credits would be sort of the basis of the funding. And then there are many other programs, including the state low-income housing tax credit, which is new this year. There are some federal funds like home that may or may not be available next year, but, hopefully affordable housing projects are going to go forward with other funding.
So how
There's
many
the
in
bond
total?
measure. from-
Okay, thank you. How many in total did you apply for this right now?
For this, it's just been
Just the
three
CDBG.
applications so far that we've already discussed, the pre-development and the CDBG.
Okay, I just got this today, so
No, no
that's why
problem.
I'm asking. Well, now.
Good answer.
What does takedown mean?
Takedown means to actually buy the property.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anthony just leaned over to me and said they're going to destroy the building.
No, none of that, none of that. No
Thank you.
Godzilla style action.
Now, originally, this was a smaller project, had fewer units?
40 might
Right.
have been what was in the original application,
Right,
but that was just, I believe, noted as an estimate.
right.
Yeah.
So how did it get to be 51?
Trying to create the right size project to get efficiency of the dollars and to get the dollars approved.
Does it have the same footprint, or is it, I would assume it's going to go further back?
So I'm sorry, we meant to include the preliminary architecturals for you. We can get those to you soon. Right now, the design has a small addition on the south end of the new addition, which would be adding an elevator to the building to get people to the second floor housing. And it would also have a second building adjacent, connected by a walkway that Joe referred to I believe it's 29 units in the second building.
So how is it that it can change? The last council approved a certain number of units per whatever it was, the contract, purchase and sales, I don't remember, whatever the name of it was, and then it can change? How was that possible? If we approved a certain number, it wasn't an estimate.
Well, the purchase and sales agreement just went to the acquisition of the property. It didn't get into the actual numbers, but that was brought up during their presentation.
I specifically recall approving a specific number, and there was a discrepancy. There was what was presented to us, and then there was the contract. And then there was a discrepancy within those two numbers, but obviously we'd be going by the contract, which was 40, whatever it was.
Joe would be able to answer that.
I believe the purchase and sale agreement said we would go for a minimum of 40-some-odd units. We were never pinned into a specific number. That can change. And as Seth indicated, 50 is the goal in order to get funding. That's like the magic number that is right now required. That can change. I mean, next year they can say it's 40 units, right? So
Does it depend on the sources available and how you can piece them together to make the project look whole?
There's a possibility I'm incorrect, but I remember that. I don't think I would have voted for it if it was not a specific number, if it was able to be flexible. So I
check
would like to go back and look at it. Not that it,
Do you have, you said you had architectural drawings?
Yes,
for us?
preliminary,
Okay.
right, so they could change.
Okay, they could change as well.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
As far as zoning relief, what type of zoning relief, do you know at this point in time what type of relief you're going to need based on the drawings?
So I don't believe it's an allowable use in that
Right.
area, so that's the main ticket right there. I don't know if Joe's planning to speak to this, but there's a adjacent property to the south of this that may be landlocked once this property is developed. And so I know we wanted to raise to the council the possibility of incorporating that extra land, which was not included in your RFP for the land. And that could change the design of the project for the better if we can incorporate that land.
Is that owned by the town?
Yes. Yes, just looking at it, you would have assumed it was one property.
if I may speak to the purchase and sale agreement indicates that it's subject to approval to construct a minimum of 42 age-restricted units. Since Seth brought this up, it's okay, Seth. In reviewing the title to the title search to the school property, the school itself doesn't have any title issues, but we did notice that there's a triangular-shaped piece of land directly behind the building, which was not included in the original purchase and sale agreement. You can see it on that map. It's Plat 6, Lot 44A. It would be a landlocked parcel after the construction of all of this. And we are asking the council at this point to have an amendment to the purchase and sale agreement so that this would be included.
Are you saying at the original purchase price or for an additional purchase price?
At the original purchase price.
I have a kind of a question going back to the block grants, unless someone has another question about this part. Okay. Sorry. You indicated that there was a timeline issue with originally getting that block grant. Is there indicia as to what the timeline is for that next round of block grants? And it matches with the timeline that you provided for that July?
So the program, sub-program through which we apply for those funds is rolling, other than when the full CDBG round is open. And so as soon as the timeline matches up, an application, I believe, can go in.
Okay. When was the original application submitted? Estimate
February.
of
This
20, okay. So, because it's saying that,
Oh, no, I think we got the results in February. So,
okay.
Mike, do you remember when that?
November 23.
November.
Okay. So a more favorable timeline means closer to the finishing date? Is that what you're
Correct,
saying? Okay.
correct.
And those few months, you think would make a difference that could help you secure funding?
Well, we're actually still a ways out from there. So construction completion in our schedule is July of '28.
Oh, I see.
And if they want a 2-year timeline, that would be July of '26.
But you need the funds before July of '25, correct?
We will be applying for the full project funding in November. Correct. So if an application were to go in after that time, it would be either because there was a gap that was created or because full funds were not awarded. So it's possible that you have an application that goes in November that's not 100% funded.
Okay, of November of 2025, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I misheard you earlier. When you were referring to this timeline that you gave us, it says July of 2025 is kind of that first piece of the timeline?
Correct. That's when we want to get our planning board application in by for approval by September.
Okay, did you say that you need to have secured 100% of the development funds by that date?
No.
You didn't say that, okay. That's what I thought
Yes, I
I,
didn't mean to.
that's okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so you don't need them for that date?
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
all right,
Full-
thank you.
Full funding is, preliminary funding approval we have here is April, May of '26,
Now I'm with
a
you.
year from now.
Okay, thank you.
When are we looking at the start of construction?
It takes quite a few months to close after that preliminary funding commitment, and we would be closing on the financing in February of '27 and commencing construction around that time.
And how do you plan to deal with the hazardous materials, the PCB, all of these problems that were discovered on the property?
These are things that are normally dealt with in the course of a development project like this. There'll be a lead hazard remediation plan so that the general contractor and their subs all know how to deal with, they use certified people and plan how the demolition, the interior demolition goes and those kinds of things. We already have a quote for the removal of the underground storage tank. And the other things, the PCBs and mercury are all very minor. It's like fire alarm stuff and fluorescent bulbs and things.
So I'm assuming that these are going to substantially add to the cost of the project?
We have yet to see how much the lead abatement will add, but the other things are negligible. All within the realm of a contingency.
I have a question for Mr. Tadino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
The piece that you're talking about that you want us to give you is what piece?
It is that triangular piece to the rear of the school. It's outlined as Plat 6, Lot 44A. It's .85 acres,
How much?
.85 acres.
So it's close to an acre.
Yeah,
Well, I gotta be honest with you, we're not in the business of giving away stuff. So I think you're gonna have to go back with your calculator and try to figure out something. You know, we've raised the taxes here the past couple of years. I'm not in the business to give away land. And it is what it is, so you're gonna need to go back to the drawing board.
understood.
Thank you. Any other questions to Mr. Tadino?
It does say minimum of 42 housing units, so essentially there's no maximum, correct?
The land can only fit
Well,
so
right.
much, abiding by the zoning constraints that they're gonna have on site.
Does that qualify for density, or does that not, is that not the same thing because of the financing?
No, the land is only, when you calculate the density on an affordable housing project, the density can only be so high.
Okay.
Based on the site constraints of the lot.
So with the density, it's,
Right.
what's the number?
I don't know what their maximum density would be.
I don't know what the maximum number would be, but I think it would be well above that, yeah.
Oh, are you able to find that out? What's the maximum number of
Yeah,
units
we
you
can
can put
find that
there?
out, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Maybe, Mr. Tadino, in a couple of months, you can come back and update us on your progress. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Tadino?
Well, I'd just like to make a comment. I think that we should be kept advised of, the financing as we go along. And if you get any rejections from the state, I'd like to know about it because, I think we all would like to know about it because, we're trying to build affordable housing here, housing for seniors where there is a very large waiting list. And when we house seniors, that frees up single-family homes theoretically, or homes for other residents to move into, and that helps with the housing crisis. And we're being penalized here in Smithfield because we haven't met our 10% goal. We're just getting inundated with developments because we haven't met our 10% goal, we get, our zoning can just be ignored and we're getting piled on with condo development. So we expect cooperation from the state in this project. So if we're not getting approvals on this, as a council, we'd like to know about that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's important that we have the council support for this funding.
The state will listen to the council as well. They want to know that you support it before they support it.
So is that
We
something you're
approved
gonna, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Is that something you're gonna need like a council resolution for?
Well, the first step was awarding the RFP, and so that was a positive thing. A resolution can only help.
If you could get us some bullet points as to what you'd like to see in the resolution, then we could prepare something for a future agenda.
Why is that necessary if we already approved this? Isn't that enough for them?
Well, we still have to go through planning board, and anytime a council decides they no longer want to support a project, it doesn't bode well for the project.
I don't hear anyone saying that they're not in support of it, so I don't know what the issue is.
Mike?
I just wanted to chime in. I did talk to the folks at CDBG, and they were very supportive of the project. I think it's a great project. It's just, as Seth said, the timing was a little bit far out, but it's something certainly that they're going to willing to, this is the very kind of project that they want to see. So I think they're excited about it. It's just the timing wasn't right, so.
Thank you.
I have some concerns about the timing because the purchase, the purchase and sales agreement was for a 1-year period, correct?
I believe the next milestone is next January, yes.
It's not 1 year from September of 2024?
I think that was the first milestone. Hold on. The first milestone was passed this last January.
It's 18 months.
Okay.
There was a 120-day feasibility period from September, and then there was a 365-day period to obtain government approvals and financing, which could be extended another 240 days.
Okay, so with the 365 days expiring in September of 2025, an application for the block grant in November of '25 presumably takes a few months, as it did the first time, to get an acceptance. I just want to kind of stress the timeline on this too.
If I'm not mistaken, the 365 was after the
120.
Okay, all right.
So that would be January of '26 that the permits and financing contingency expires, and then it could be extended another 240 days.
All right. With approval of the council, of course.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Tadino. Look forward to your updates. Item 6, move the minutes of the March 18, 2025 executive session meeting held pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 4246, 5A1 personnel, and discuss possible appointments to town boards and commissions to discuss the employee disability pension to be approved as recorded and sealed. I'll entertain a motion. Do I have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Item B, move the minutes of the March 18, 2025 open session meeting to be approved as recorded. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
There was one amendment that's going to be made, something that was left out.
Okay.
And on page 4. I've discussed it with the clerk. It's the name of the sewer authority appointment.
Okay.
The name was left out.
All right, great. We got that, Lynn?
Yes.
Thank you so much. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Item number C, move the minutes of the March 31st, 2025 executive session meeting, Rhode Island General Laws 4246 5A1, personnel to discuss town manager applications to be approved and recorded and sealed. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item D, move the minutes of the March 31st, 2025 open session meeting to be approved as recorded.
So moved.
Entertain a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays, ayes have it. Item number 7, discuss the act upon the following possible appointments and reappointments. Item A, appointments to the Water Supply Board with the term expiring December 2026.
Motion to appoint Christy Holmes.
Have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item B, reappointment to the Zoning Board for the term expiring May of 2029.
Motion to appoint Linda Marcello.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item number C, reappointment of Board of Assessments Review with the term expiring December 2027.
Motion to reappoint Drew Manlove.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Reappointment to the Sewer Authority with the term expiring January of 2030.
Motion to reappoint Louis Caterina.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item E, reappointment to the Historic Preservation Commission with the term expiring in February of 2028.
Motion to reappoint Chad Morrison.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item number 8, public hearing. Conduct a public hearing to consider the act upon amendment of Chapter 32 Code of Ordinance to add Section 32-19 entitled Snow Walk Removal, sponsored by myself. And I will open up the public hearing in a second, but I just want to tell everyone that this came to my attention from a couple of emails of residents in the town of Smithfield because of what happened in Woonsocket with that little girl being killed in the street. The sidewalks were not plowed. They had to walk in the street, and she was hit, and she was killed. So I'll open up the public hearing for anyone that'd like to come to the podium.
My name is Susan Vodolato. I live at 134 Pleasant View Avenue. I have read the ordinance concerning removal of snow on sidewalks, and I can completely understand that we would want sidewalks to be clear of snow so that students can walk safely to school. At this time, the town employees do a great job of clearing a path on the sidewalks from the Gallagher Middle School to the elementary school to the high school and beyond the high school on both sides of Pleasant View Avenue. My house is located at the corner of Laurel Hill Drive and Pleasant View Avenue. The town snow plows will start at the beginning of Laurel Hill and will move the snow down the street to the corner of my property and put the snow on the corner of the sidewalk. This isn't just light fluffy snow. This is now ice, slush, and hard snow. Depending on how much snow we have, that pile of snow can be like 4 feet high. Then I have the state plows. They come on Pleasant View and put more snow on the sidewalk. Again, not light fluffy snow, it's hard snow. My home has a 4-foot stone wall in front of my home at the property line with the sidewalk. If I could even move the snow, there would be no place for me to put the snow except right back in the street. I'm also concerned for the well-being of the elderly residents in town. I don't think that we can ask elderly adults to shovel their sidewalks. I really think that it would be a dangerous situation from some elderly people in town. So I urge all the town council members to please not approve this ordinance due to the hardship it would place on residents that live on the main roads in town. Thank you.
I'm David D. Pasquale, and I live at 101 Austin Avenue. Like the lady who just spoke, I have a similar problem, not as quite as bad as hers, though. The sidewalk in front of my house is 7.5 feet wide, and I've written a letter to President Tassoni and carbon copied the rest of the council concerning this. Now, if the snow has to be removed, on one side is my yard. I don't own the stone wall, I don't own the sidewalk. I would have to eject the snow into my yard. I'm certain you wouldn't want me to eject it into the street. I can't eject it forward because I would be throwing it on my neighbor's property. So where would I put the snow anyway? This is, you know, the thing about all of this, though, beyond our individual problems with it, is this town was built or developed on a system of rural highways. These roads are wide. When the plows come through, I mean, they do deposit a great deal of snow everywhere, you know, toward the sidewalks. And if you clear off just in front of my driveway, if I clear, I have to go out maybe 2 times to do it. I can hardly wait to have the snow thrown back on the sidewalk after I spent all morning cleaning it off the sidewalk to have to take it off a second or third time. You know, and this is a common problem or a common situation, you know, in many of the places. Austin Avenue is, for instance, is long, and other people face the same sorts of situations. I don't see, you know, how it's fair to, or really not a hardship for anyone. I don't talking about it. I'm 73 years old. I'm not going to cry that I can't move the snow. I do all the work around my own home and everything else. But the fact of the matter is, for anyone, if you're young and you're trying to go to work and everything else, you're going to be fine because you couldn't get out there in time and you had to go to work. This is completely unfair. So I would respectfully ask you to reject this ridiculous idea. Thank you very much.
Bobby Nicolopoulos, resident at 26 Deerfield Drive in Greenville. Just wanted to comment on it. I see the merit of this ordinance. I fully respect it out of respect for the families that we know in town that have had situations that relate to this. I'm not going to mention that, but it's pretty evident of how important this change would be. My hometown is in Bergen County, New Jersey, Lodi. So it's a suburban area. So plowing your own sidewalks, and if you don't plow them, getting fined is not anything new to me. It's just the way you live in a suburban area. I do think, though, that what the gentleman said before me is, should be weighted pretty heavily. Smithfield is not Lodi, New Jersey. It's not a town that's 25 minutes away from New York City. It's supposed to be a rural town. I see issues with maybe not so much with the concept, more so the execution. The median income in Rhode Island is $87,000, right? So $100 per day, although it's a great incentivizer, also takes away the ability for those individuals to do something about it. I mean, we're talking about after taxes, that's half of somebody's paycheck. And it continues, right? So we're not really incentivizing residents to remove that snow material. I think that needs to be decided upon what are those public ways that matter, that people need to traverse. At Deerfield and that general area of the community, some people have these micro sidewalks, and you ask yourself, who's really traversing these sidewalks? In other areas, like on 44, you have active, real sidewalks, right? I think the town should really consider the execution of this. I think $100 per day is a little bit too steep. I would like to see something come of the sense of maybe the town helps these individuals or identifies which individuals are elderly that cannot plow their snow, and the town together works on a solution that will make it safe for everybody, those traversing in inclement conditions, and those trying to use the sidewalks, like to bike or to walk on a nice weekend. So it's, I don't agree with the concept as it's currently laid out, but I fully respect the merits of what it's trying to accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Elaine Polino, and I live at 155 Pleasant View Avenue. And, again, like everyone was saying, it was a rural town. My parents lived there for 30 years plus, and we didn't even have sidewalks. So they put in sidewalks in the past several years, which is fine, but I have like at least 150-foot frontage. And when the snowplows come by, they are racing down the street, and these are oversized state snowplows that are oversized dump trucks. And I already go out there myself, and I do a 120-foot driveway by myself, and I occasionally can have somebody come and plow that. But come on, we live in Rhode Island. You can't find anybody to help you. So unless I do it myself, which I physically can't, number one. And number two, if I'm out of town, I have elderly people living in my tenants, and they're older. So, and one's handicapped. So what are they going to do? And again, I could call people to do it, but they don't show up. So the main thing is I would love to have this taken down. Or make some kind of arrangement where there's some people we can call that will guarantee will show up and plow these roads, or our driveways with a little snow blower. But I don't know. To me, it just doesn't make sense. And if I do it myself, even with the snow blower, like when I'm shoveling on 116, I have to run back because first of all, the plow throws ice and snow all over me. Second of all, if I slip or one of my tenants slip, shoveling, they're going to get killed. So it's not safe for seniors. It's not safe for young people on the main roads. And I don't know about the side streets with the sidewalks, but we are a rural town, and I'd like to keep it that way. Thanks.
How you doing? Zach Smith, 39 Smith Ave. First, I want to make it clear that I support public safety and understand the importance of maintaining accessible walkways. I also have no issue with trimming trees on my property that overhang the sidewalk. That's logical, and I acknowledge those trees are my responsibility. However, I do have concerns regarding the sidewalk snow removal requirement that I hope the council will consider. The primary issue is the sidewalk is not owned by the property owner behind it. Additionally, the snow that accumulates on Smith Ave sidewalks is not typical snowfall. It's dense road slush that is significantly heavier due to salt and moisture, making it extremely difficult to remove. I've tried to clear it for years and it's nearly impossible. I purchased the most powerful snowblower they have and it bogs down and breaks constantly. It's an impossible task. My concern deepens with the legal liability involved. I am now expected to maintain a sidewalk that also makes me legally responsible for any slip and fall if an incident occurs. This would require property owners to invest in umbrella policies, an added cost and a legal risk for something outside our ownership and our control. You would be found negligent in a court of law if you did not maintain your sidewalk. Lastly, I would like to point out an inconsistency. 3 years ago, I raised a safety concern about the large granite blocks in the cemetery on Smith Ave that are falling onto the sidewalk. My children walk down that road. At the time when I approached the town, I was told it was a state issue because Smith Ave is a state road. If that's the case, it's difficult to understand how the town now requires me to maintain the very same sidewalk that was previously considered a state responsibility. I appreciate the effort to improve our community and keep it safe, but I respectfully believe this places an unreasonable burden on property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Just a FYI, that cemetery will be fixed in August. That wall will come down. Next.
Hi, I'm Diane Kuchar. I live at 142 Pleasant View Ave on the corner of Swan. Similar issues from everyone. And I have neighbors that are not going to be able to handle that. I have neighbors that are away. And what the gentleman said before, it's a liability. And the last thing I'll say is my grandson was one of the walkers, and I thought that the rule that was being proposed was more for the walkers of the children going to school, you know, the 1 mile thing that we have in Smithfield. But he did tell me that when he was living in one of my apartments, that it was easier for him to walk with the snow, because when it had been shoveled, it was all ice, and it was more dangerous. So hopefully you keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just saying, Trish Williams, owner of 20 and 22 Pleasant View Avenue. I've been there for 50 years, before the sidewalks even came. I was the one that struggled on the hill all the time with the lawnmower. That's a state road, it's a state highway. I wish that you could see the cleanup of the sidewalks that the state is trying to do right now. Whoever approved on the state level those sidewalks to begin with should lose his job. They are improperly sized. You cannot walk a baby carriage in many locations. They are not handicap accessible. Now you take the state plows that do polo, they go tandem 2, 3, 4. Luckily, we haven't had a lot of snow in the last couple of years, but they fly morning, noon, and night. I'm one of the ones that has a 4-foot wall. I'm a little over 4 feet. Where am I going to put the snow? I get the snow coming from the plows that go down Pleasant View Circle, that come from Maury Road and go down. I have to plow or shovel at least another 4 feet out because I'm on Pleasant View Circle. It's a bad idea. It's improperly designed. The sidewalks did not exist 50 years ago in this town, and I'm very happy to report that in the 50 years that I've lived here, we never had a death from somebody getting hit because of the sidewalk situation. Just saying, we have had car accidents, we've had people come up on the sidewalks, we've had no deaths. This is a real hardship to folks. A lot of them go away. I'm probably one of the oldest ones from 44 down now. They go away to Florida. Who's going to take care of the property? Like a few of the other people said, who are you going to get to come out at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and shovel a sidewalk that's only, now when you go by, it's already been shoveled. How do you know that the plows haven't come by again and redone it? What do? We sit out there all day long with a shovel? It's a bad idea. Let's throw it back on the state. The state is the one that forced us into these sidewalks. They don't maintain them. other than that. And again, it's a joke if you ever watch them try to clean the sidewalks off and the gutters. It's a bad situation. I can understand, very sorry for the family up in Woonsocket. It's a tragedy. Again, it was probably a moron that was going way too fast, which we all have seen on Pleasant View Ave. The speed is out of control, out of control. We have trucks, literally, once they turn on from 44, you can hear them going through the gears. By the time they get to my house, they're going a good 40 or 50 miles an hour. That's not that far from 44 to where I am. So that's what you have to look at. You have to look at the fact that lay this on the state of Rhode Island. They put in these crappy sidewalks that are not handicap accessible. You've got signage in the middle of the sidewalks. You've got mailboxes. People were not supposed to put up granite and put in their own mailboxes and fancy. They had to be breakaway for an accident. Nobody's following it. They're sticking up whatever they want now. So again, please reconsider, throw it back on the state. They're the ones that made this mess.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Andy Seshaw, 12 Connors Farm. First off, I'd like to thank Councilman Tassoni for having the courage to bring this forward. When I reached out a few months ago, it was more of a safety issue. Myself going running at night. After a snowstorm on Pleasant View, there's no place to run except in the middle of the road. Not very safe. I've heard some of the reasons why we shouldn't pass this ordinance tonight, but I would suggest that there are a lot of students at the high school looking for community service hours. I realize the hardship put on families, put on individuals, and just question whether or not we could come together as a community, help each other out. I've helped out neighbors. One of my neighbors had a heart attack a few months ago. I helped him out when he was out there trying to shovel his driveway. It wasn't safe. I went over it and told him to go back inside. My 92-year-old neighbor, I've told him to go inside. I've shoveled out his driveway. I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm just saying we should come together as a community, help each other out for those that aren't able to adhere to the proposal. I'll leave my remarks at that, but encourage everybody on the council to strongly support this passage.
Thank you.
Mark Gedeman, 11 Appleseed Drive in Greenville. That's in the Austin Avenue section. Family's been here since 1971. That's 54 years. Back then, there weren't that many cars. Today, you look at any driveway, there's 3, 4, or 5 cars. In a family of 3, we have 3 cars. All that is to say that there's a lot more drivers on the road today. It seems to me that the sidewalks were put in place for a reason, for people to walk on the sidewalk. Hard to do when it's covered with snow. Like my friend Andrew, I'm a runner and a biker. I'm recently turned 60 years old. I'm still active. I plan to be until I'm 90, if God's willing. But it would be good to have those sidewalks. Again, I live in the Austin Avenue area, a very active area. We're thankful to have the police patrolling, but cars whiz up and down those roads. We have a lot of families there. Parents, grandparents, actively out there all seasons, including winter, walking, exercising, day and night. I understand the hardships for clearing snow. I do my house, I do my elderly neighbor's house, I do my elderly neighbors across the street. I do it because we're a community, right? It is basically citizenship 101. We try to take care of each other. We're a community. We should be willing to take care of each other. I understand it's either a state, actually I'm not clear, is it a state sidewalk or a town sidewalk?
It's a town now.
It's a town sidewalk? Okay. So, town sidewalk. It's our responsibility to watch out for one another. And if that's the case, we should be watching out for one another. There was one argument up here about it would be a liability if I cleared the sidewalk and somebody slipped and fell. Well, it's also a liability if you don't clear the sidewalk and somebody slips in the street, falls on your property. It's a liability either way. My whole point is we should be looking out for one another. That's what community is all about. I understand the other arguments, but the last thing I want to see is a death here in our town. We haven't had one for 50 years. Hopefully for another 50 years, we won't have that kind of situation. But as we all know, life happens. So with that, I would ask respectfully that the council consider the approval of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Squaw 101 Austin Avenue
For the second time.
for the second time. Number one, I wonder if people think about like what you're actually talking about in terms of removing the snow. When I sent the council the letter, I did specify the dimensions of the area. I have an 172, and I know you've read this and everything else, but for the benefit of the other folks in the audience here, I have a 172-foot run that I would have to shovel. The sidewalk is 7.5 feet wide, and it runs from the curbing right up flush against that wall. So now if I have to clean the sidewalk, I've got to clean the sidewalk. So that means that's everything, okay? I figure with a 6-inch snowfall, that's 24 cubic yards of snow if it lays flat. That doesn't count, all the packing of the ice and everything that gets thrown in. As far as all these folks who are well-intentioned, want to help and, help the neighbor and all this. But if you're going to show up on that day because you have to go to work or you're sick with the flu, I have to pay a $100 fine? That's, I can't depend on that. I don't want do-gooders to come and take care of me, okay? If I have to deal with this, I'll deal with it myself or I'll hire somebody. But the point is, we have to depend on either not having to be able to, not having to be mandated to do this, or we have to find some way of taking care of it. I don't know, maybe the town should, maybe part of the ordinance would be that certain areas or certain people would get help from the town employees to have that snow removed. I don't know, that would be, of course, up to you and the wisdom of the council.
Thank you. Any others?
Elaine Polino back again. Okay, that's another thing. How wide, do we have to clear every inch of snow or just a path where people can walk on? Like the size of a snow plow, what they would do, 28 inches, 30 inches. But also the main thing is if I do it and then an hour later they come back and they pile it up again, or it's snowing and snowing and snowing, there might be a time where I might go to bed or, somebody's too old, they can't do it, they pull a muscle. Now, am I going to get fined for that because I went out there like a dog and worked really hard and then they piled it up again? It just isn't fair. If you live on a side street and you have a small frontage and you're all buddy-buddy with your neighbors and you help each other, but when you live on a main road, it's ice, it's slush, it's solid, it is not. And it's usually several feet high, or at least 3 feet high when they pile it on. So I just would like you to consider that, and maybe we can get some help from the state or put it on the state, at least for the main roads that are there. And then the people in the neighborhoods, maybe they'll help each other. I hope so. But thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kevin Smith. I own 34 Smith Avenue, 39 Smith Avenue, and 10 Esmond Street. 2 of my properties have a 3-foot-high fence, and my house on Esmond Street's about 4.5 feet from the fence. So if I have nowhere to put the snow, except I would have to throw it over the fence, obviously. And then who's going to take care of the water that ends up in the basement after that? Who's going to be responsible for it, is my question. Because my insurance company's not going to pay off because they're going to say, well, I put it there. But I'm going to be told that I have to put it there because I got nowhere else to put it. And then if the plow comes by again, basically you're asking me to remove all the snow from the street off the sidewalk. Should the plows be able to plow the snow now onto the sidewalk? Maybe they shouldn't be able to put it on the sidewalk anymore because I got to shovel it. And I'm elderly. And what if I have a heart attack and die? Are you going to be responsible for that? Who's going to take, these are questions.
Why are you looking at Tommy Winfield?
He knows.
Tommy, go ahead.
So I think we're going to make a motion to lay this on the table, hold it for a bit, but just a couple comments. When the president asked to put this on, I said, yeah, we should talk about this. And that's what we're doing. We're talking about it. But we want to get some information. We do have a holder, what's a holder? It's a sidewalk machine. So the town could or may be able to take care of some sidewalks on the main roads. There is also kids that always are in trouble and they have to do community service. There's, so yes, maybe we have a trigger. 2 inches of snow, we don't do anything. But sitting at my desk, and this is why I agreed with the council president to put this on and let's talk about it, when I sit at my desk and I see people walking on the sidewalks. If there's a lot of snow, they're walking in traffic in 44. So we have to talk about it. We want to get some ideas. People have given us some ideas today. And maybe there's a plan that we can move forward at some point we live in a state that gets snow in the winter. And other communities, they get it done. I think we can come up with a plan and I think we can get it done.
Yeah, I think if the town's got machines in the town.
But there would still be, there may be still handwork. Yeah,
Not hand shovel it.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like.
Yeah,
All that ice and.
I do my own.
Basically nothing but slush.
Yeah,
The water weighs a lot.
I do all my own snow removal. I know all about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
On that note, if there's no one else, I did talk to the DPW director. He would be the one who's enforcing this. I talked to the chief of police. They want nothing to do with enforcement of this. So Gene and I basically agreed that it should be the state's responsibility to clear the sidewalks as they own them. But that's not going to happen. So ideally, he confirmed that he would be in charge, DPW would be in charge of doing all the sidewalks. The issue that is here is that a lot of the main roads have the mailboxes and the street signs in the middle of the sidewalk. So they have 2 plow machines currently. They used it already this year. Thanks to Mr. Smith, I did not know that. So his plan in the future is to reach out to the state and see if we can expand the sidewalks to get the snowplow and do all of the sidewalks. So, and there's.
I can answer that question. That permission has already been done. It's
Okay.
granted. We can do that. But it's just, we have to do it with our own people.
Okay, so, but I think in general, people really have spoken. I totally agree that this is not fair. We just received an email at 4:30 from somebody at AARP saying it's not a good idea. It was brought to my attention that this came up in 2016 and was voted down due to negative feedback. I can appreciate the reason for this, of course. But, the state owns the sidewalks, yet they don't maintain them. And now we're saying on top of that, along with what Trish said, they look terrible. And now we're going to tell people that, if you don't clear the snow, you're going to get fined $100. I think that's pretty draconian. I don't like it. It's adding insult to injury. What about exactly people who are away for the winter, who are sick? At least have an exception in here. I know you said you're going to table it, apparently, which is good, but, there's just a lot of issues with this. I just don't think it's a good idea.
I think if you look at the.
Mike, can I close the public hearing?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Go ahead, Mike.
I think if you look at the town of Smithfield, it's such a variety of different properties in Smithfield. You have some properties, obviously, where shoveling the sidewalk is relatively easy, and it goes along a continuum to the point where some sidewalks are impossible to shovel by hand. You need some kind of heavy equipment. So I think that an ordinance this broad would be totally inappropriate. I think that Smithfield has a large elderly population. We have disabled people. They may not be able to afford to hire someone to shovel a sidewalk. I think a better solution would be to encourage our residents to report any problems they may see as a result of snow on sidewalks to Public Works. And we have that, that Click Fix website where you can report any issue. And our Public Works Department is a very responsive department. And I think they can come and take care of some of these situations because this is a heavy burden. This is a heavy ordinance. I mean, $100 a day is very steep. People, as if they said, they may be away. It's just, it seems, as Councilwoman Toppy indicated, draconian. I'd much rather have engage our citizens to work with the town as opposed to placing onerous fines on people. So I would not support this ordinance, and hopefully we can, as has been indicated, come up with some other solutions that don't place such a burden on the homeowners.
Thank you. Councilman Winfield. You have a motion?
Made the motion. Motion to hold, motion to table.
I'll second that motion. I just do want to thank everyone for coming, and whether they support the ordinance or not support the ordinance, I thank everyone for their feedback. The whole point of this is to learn what people in the community think, so we appreciate you coming. With that, I'll second the motion.
Any more discussion?
Councilman Winfield, what's the reason to hold? Is it just to sort of like rework it, or is it like what's?
We'll take some of those ideas and work on it.
So the intent is to reintroduce this at some point?
I think it's just for further study
Yeah.
overall.
I mean, if we can come up with some consensus, maybe. If it doesn't, then we won't.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Item B, conduct a public hearing to consider and discuss or act upon amendments to Chapter 257 of the Code of Ordinances to add Section 25710 entitled Tree Shrub Trimming, sponsored by myself, pertaining to the issue that we had on 116 on the 4th of July when that young lady hit a tree that was overhanging the sidewalk and she lost her life. So with that, I'll open up the public hearing.
Trish Williams, 2022 Pleasant View. This is a good ordinance. This, I can see the merit in it. I only had one tree on my property, removed it. On the Tucker's old house, they had a whole line of trees. Just spent thousands because one crashed during a windstorm to take the trees down. We have a contract, I believe, with Stanley Tree, the town does.
No.
If it's overhanging on a side.
We have a tree warden.
Okay, so if it's hanging over the street, just like if your neighbor's tree, hopefully you ask them, hey, it's, in my yard, can I cut it off? I think the town should just, let the residents know that they're going to be coming around and assessing, and that they may have to have their trees cut back. They do it all the time for utilities, for the telephone poles. I mean, you go down the street and you say, oh my God, who butchered that tree? I mean, they take the whole big section out and they leave the stupid big limb in the way. But I mean, it needs to be done. There are some properties, I've seen them myself, near where I am, that they have lights even that are hanging from them, which is on the sidewalk. So that in itself is dangerous. So this I think is a good idea.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Okay. Now I have a lot of trees, and again, being a rural...
Can you state your name for the
Oh,
record again?
Elaine Polino, 155 Pleasant View Avenue.
Thank you.
In Smithfield. Oops. Anyway, is there like an easement from the state or the town that trims trees? Because I also have, my trees are near all the power lines and everything, so you don't do that? Okay. Now, how high would this be? Because I understand, because I live across the street almost from where that accident was. But another thing I'll talk about in a second is the speeding on that road. But how high would I have to trim? I mean, 20 feet, 15 feet above people's heads, 5 feet above people's heads? Because I have trees that are 50, 60 feet tall, or even taller, and they might hang over, but only the top part, not the bottom part. So I just need to know, I'm willing to trim up to, at a reasonable amount, and, because I do like my trees, but they don't, so what's a reasonable amount?
It says safe passage.
Okay, safe passage, so it would be for a human being on a bike or whatever person, as stilts, whatever, but anything above that is fine. Okay, my main thing I hate about where I live, even though I love everything about Smithfield, is since they're doing a lot of construction and everything, 116 has become a racetrack. They are flying down the street. You have big giant dump trucks, and then they have a trailer behind that. And then you have 18-wheelers, you have all kinds of trucks speeding, pickup trucks loaded with all the guys that do all the, the landscaping, flying down the road, never mind just regular people driving. And they hit that corner where that woman was killed, like it's going out of style. And there's nothing, every few nights I hear boom, and I walk outside and I see the police there in the ambulance. So I think that's another thing, not just the trees, but the speeding has to be addressed on 116. And I'm willing to let them put one of those signs on my property that says, monitors their speed. So, put that in there. I'd be more than happy to do that. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Bobby Nicolopoulos again, 26 Deerfield Drive in Greenville. I want to say, support this ordinance. I think this is an excellent one. I grow trees from Europe, and they grow very slow. It takes a very long time until a tree or a shrub has overtaken a sidewalk. I've had a lot of close calls myself biking on these streets, just because, you're turning your head around to look at something, as other people have noted, a street sign in the middle of the sidewalk. You're like, oh, I have to now, somehow either duck or get in the road or just go right through it. So I fully agree with that. I do want to comment on two things. Speed kills. I know that's been brought up by police departments everywhere across the country, but the speed is definitely an issue. So I think there's another side of this needs to be addressed separately. But the one thing I want to add is the DPW in the town is very proactive, almost too proactive in some cases with trees and shrubbery. When I bought my property, I had a tree that was well beyond the 7-foot property, the portion of 7 feet, the portion of the property that the town owns, right? And proactively, I wasn't there. They came and cut down the lower limb of my branches of a Douglas fir all the way to the trunk. And I was pretty frustrated because they cut it all in the same area versus just cutting what was overhanging on top of the street. I understand it was done for plows and stuff of that nature. Just some communication when that happens would be helpful. But I do want to say and close with it. I fully approve this. This is excellent.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to close the public hearing. Councilman Ionati.
How did you know I was going to speak?
Huh? No, I knew you were going to speak because we spoke beforehand. Councilman Ionati.
Right now, if a tree is a danger, even where there aren't any sidewalks, I think that the town has the tree warden look at it, but I know that DPW comes, they notify the owner, and they will just take care of removing the whole tree or whatever portion of the tree is a danger. I've seen that happen on my street. We also have a regular, we have a regular tree cutting program for the power lines, although this doesn't affect that.
Rhode Island Energy
contracts with the tree companies to do that.
To do the, do the power lines. This ordinance says encroaching beyond property line into any sidewalks or undeveloped sidewalk area beyond their property line. How do you define, how would we define an undeveloped sidewalk area?
Let me just comment on the conversation we had. I think your idea I'm okay with.
Okay.
So throw it out there.
All right, well, my idea is the same one for the snow removal ordinance. Basically, if someone sees something, sees a problem, they can report it through our ClickFix website or by calling the Public Works Department, and the Public Works Department can come and take care of it. And I think this is the fastest and easiest way to do it, rather than trying to fine people $100 a day. Let's take care of it, and we can take care of it very quickly. I suspect there aren't a very, very large number of these issues, but where they are, let's have our Public Works Department provide the service to our homeowners that they're paying taxes. Let's just get the job done and quickly make these sidewalks safe.
So are you suggesting to not approve this ordinance? Is that what essentially what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the ordinance is over the top.
I just have a comment on that.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to what you're saying, Councilman Ioannoni. I'm just wondering, in the situations where someone is not reporting these obstructions, and then something, it kind of puts the burden on people to report these things instead of on the person who has the obstruction. So I'm wondering, in those types of situations, like, for example, I live on Esmond Street. Those sidewalks are pretty narrow comparatively. I know some people say they have 7.5-foot sidewalks. I wish I had that. I do not. So I'm often in the street when I go for walks. So would I be responsible to report every single person that has an obstruction? I feel like it should be on the person who owns the bush or the tree.
I think basically, from what Councilman's saying, it's common sense. It's common sense. If you see something, say something. You know, I mean, that poor girl back the 4th of July was minding her own business, riding a bike on the sidewalk, and somebody had an overhanging branch, and it happened. It happened. But, I'm okay with calling up the DPW or ClickFix and having them take care of it, because sometimes, it might be weeks that somebody could get to that, and then somebody may get hurt. At least with the ClickFix, that goes right in, right away. The DPW can put it on the workload and get it done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just worried that if it doesn't get reported, it would go unnoticed.
Well, if it doesn't get reported, then sometimes people don't fix it either.
Yeah.
So,
The only comment I would make to this is, if you don't have some kind of ordinance in place, we cannot enforce through municipal court if we have to require somebody to remove the trees or remove the branches. So typically with something like this, the fine would stay in abeyance until such time that the person removed the branches or whatever the case may be, and that would be the end of it. However, if they do not comply and it goes to municipal court, then the court has an ability to fine them and, again, give them a chance to keep it in abeyance, take care of the problem. If they refuse to comply, then we have some authority to do something about it. So I get exactly what you're talking about, but I just want you to understand, this gives us enforcement authority to make sure it happens. In the case where it's a public safety hazard, nobody's reported it, and it is a requirement of the property owner. So that's my only comment on what the ordinance does for the town.
Now, what happens now? Does DPW go ahead and just, if it's a safety issue and nobody's taking care of it, do they just go ahead and chop it down? I'm under the impression that he's aware of it and he brings it to their attention and says, if you don't do it, then I'm going to do it, but you're not going to like how I do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a safety hazard on a town sidewalk, then we certainly have the responsibility to clear it out and make it safe.
So you can't, the town can go ahead and do it even though it's their private property
Well, the
already?
branches that are over, the branches, but not.
Well, that's what I'm
We
saying.
can't take the tree down.
No,
Yeah.
I would hope not, no.
We can't take the branches down because it's a safety hazard.
So why would you need
Yeah, right.
municipal court?
Because
Do it now.
sometimes you run into some problems with people not maintaining their property. It's overwhelming. We have this problem with a couple of properties right now with trash on their properties and whatnot. And at some point, if they don't fix it, we can lien their property through municipal court, and we can do it, and they'll have to pay for it later. So that's the only advantage, is that if it comes to the point where you really need to get something done, we have authority through the court to lien their property.
I mean, I think the whole point of this is a safety thing. I don't think it's like a revenue thing.
You don't want to use it as a hammer, but I mean,
Correct.
that poor girl got killed.
Right, exactly. And so the system that you're proposing, Councilman, with DPW and the tree ward, where somebody would see something, say something, report it, the tree ward would handle it, DPW would come and trim the bushes accordingly, makes sense. I think that's great. For the
Why don't we,
people that aren't reporting it,
why don't we do this? Why don't we hold this, let the Click Fix try to work? And if it doesn't work, then we'll just bring this back up.
that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Public hearing is closed, but I'll let you speak.
Dennis Wise, 141 Old County Road. Now, as Councilwoman stated, Esmond Street, I have pictures here that 3 years ago were taken, 2 years ago, and they, the shrubs, I mean, as far as branches, yeah, you go cut them, but you start going to people's shrubs in front of their house and you start hacking them up, there's gonna be some pissed off people. But there has to be something. Old County Road, same thing, there's pictures. You gotta walk in the side, on Esmond Street, if you go walking up Esmond Street, as you saw me walking, Mr. President, I have to walk in the sidewalk, I mean, in the street. So, I mean, you need some bite. Calling up DPW still isn't done. I mean, don't look that bad right now because it's not grown in yet.
But I think, Dennis, that we need to give people a chance. I mean, that's a good suggestion. If it works, fine, then we
I'm
don't
telling
need
you,
to get into that.
I'm telling you, Mr. President, it doesn't work. I've already done this. This is like I think I talked to Mr. Winfield about this before.
But I don't think the public is aware. I mean, I think, obviously the Observer's watching this, and they could put something in the Observer, and people that need to take care of their bushes and trees that overhang sidewalks. And if they don't, then we're gonna have to come back and deal with this.
One of the problems is these houses are owned by other people. So these are rentals. And absently, yeah, exactly. The landlord's not around, he's collecting the money. And the yard looks like crap. I mean, I take care of my yard. I expect people to take care of yours. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say that a lot of the problem is on empty lots, government property. For example, right across from the police station, in the summertime, right by the lake over there, you can't walk there at all. So it's not always people. It's government not taking, I'm not blaming DPW. They're doing a great job. I'm just saying, I don't think it's necessarily the homeowner always.
Yeah, the Mail 75 Whipple, I think they trimmed the pine trees near my house. They did a great job. And I think, like John says, you got to give it time. You can't just be chopping people's stuff up, or if they're aware of it, by some kind of a letter. But then we have a DPW. I don't know how many guys there are, what kind of work they do. Can't they trim or send a notice to these people? DPW is going to come by and trim what's overhanging. I mean, don't we have guys for this? The other thing I want to mention was, I think notifications should go out to people. When Davies comes around and just trims near the wires, and they're taking advantage of the town, and they're milking the town, they should go back past those wires, even if it is on the people's property, send a notice, because every year they're coming around. How much do we pay Davies? Too much money. Let them go around, so every other year instead of every year. Send a notice out to the people.
Mr. DeMayo, we do not pay Davy. Rhode Island Energy pays Davy. They do that on behalf of the town,
All right,
just
so
to let you know.
Thank you, I'm glad I learned something.
Did you learn
But
something today?
I still think they should go back further, that's all I'm saying.
No, they only can go back from whatever the Rhode Energy tells them to go back, whether it's 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, whatever.
All right, I thought we were paying, so I stand corrected. Thank you very much, I
You're welcome.
apologize.
Anytime for you.
What's the process now if DPW sees something overhanging a sidewalk in a hazardous situation? Do they, I'm assuming they contact the owner and before they do any remediation of that?
Yeah, I mean, the frequency is kind of low, but when it does, I know that either Ralph or Gene would make sure the property owner's contacted. And if they can do it, if the property owner can do it, then certainly we'd ask them to do it. If the property owner doesn't have the ability to do it, DPW will do it, so.
It's like when that young lady got killed, DPW went out the next day.
Right,
branches.
right.
All right, so, hold on. Have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Nays, ayes have it. Item number C, schedule a public hearing on May 6, 2025, to consider and discuss and act upon amendment of Chapter 102, the Code of Ordinances entitled Traffic Safety Commission to amend Section 102 entitled Creation Powers Duties, sponsored by members Mike Iannotti and Rachel Toppy. It's going to be May 13th now.
May 13th. Yep. That's fine. Basically, what this does is it just creates a 3-year term for the resident that is on the Traffic Safety Commission. I think previously it was a life term. We don't really have life terms, so this cleans up this ordinance to actually create a term.
Yeah, we should do that for all. Shouldn't be life terms for anybody.
Right, so
Yeah.
I think we should look at all our ordinances.
All right, thank you. We have a
So
motion?
I would move that this be scheduled for a public hearing on, at the next town council meeting.
Second.
Which is May 13th. We have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Nays, ayes have it. Item number 9, licenses. Consider, discuss, and act upon approving annual renewal of 3 holiday licenses listed as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances. Graham's Girls, Michael Stores, Target Corporation. Everything in order, Len? I'll entertain a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays, ayes have it. Item B, consider, discuss, and act upon the annual renewal of 1 peddler's license as applied, subject to compliance with all state and local ordinances.
Motion to approve the annual renewal of 1 peddler's license for Pelagi's Ice Cream.
Second. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item number C, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a 1-day beer and wine license for the Smithfield Senior Center as follows. Wine and cheese event to be held Thursday, May 15, 2025, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The party will take place at the Smithfield Senior Center. Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item number D, consider, discuss, act upon approving a 1-day beer and wine license for the Smithfield Senior Center Comedy Dinner Show to be held Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, from the hours of 6 to 9 p.m. I'll entertain a motion. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item number E, consider, discuss, and act upon approving the annual renewal of 1-day bingo license as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances for the Pleasant View Elementary School.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item F, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a mobile food truck license for Andrea Webster and Louise Little Pancakes to sell mini pancakes with toppings from the trailer with the Rhode Island registration 28168, 99 Burlingame Road as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances.
So moved.
Any, second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Item G, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new particular license for the AREV Incorporated Sonia's Deli located at 445 Putnam Pike with the hours of operation from Monday through Sunday from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, and final approval from the Department of Health, and final approval from the building official. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. There is item number 10, old business, there's none. New business. Item 11, consider, discuss, and act upon a bid for the purchase, delivery, and installation of 2 K-lines in the high school to be paid for grant funds on behalf of the school department.
Good evening.
Hi,
Angela
Angelo.
Mancucci. How are you? Angela Mancucci, Smithfield Public Schools. Before you, we have a grant that was applied for 2 kilns to be installed at Smithfield High School. The number came in very well, and this would be a great asset to this department.
Angela, is it typical that it's only a 1-year warranty on these things?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Angela, I know you said this was with grant funding. Is the grant specific to the purchase price, or is there excess for arts or something like that in the grant?
We have been using this grant for other items associated with this also. This is just one particular area where we're using this grant on with the school
Thank you.
department.
Any more questions for Angela?
How long did the other ones last? The other kilns?
Of the other, well, they have lasted at least, what is it, I've been here 11 years, they've been here before me.
Okay.
We have one we use for pots, and the obstruction that happens is, most of the time, both kilns go down at the same time, and there's no instruction taking place in the classroom. That's the big piece. So now we're moving forward with proper ventilation, and this would be a great thing.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Angela? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Item B, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing request for proposal for the Rhode Island Department of Education Building Authority Health and Safety Emergency Projects ISE room for the Smithfield High School on behalf of the school department.
This is the second wave of what we'd like to do in the high school with the ISC room for special ed, to do a relocation from its current area to an area which is located behind the library, adjacent to the center court of the school. We have a timeline to begin this project at the end of school and be completed by early August.
The special ed now is where the shops used to be.
That is
High
correct.
school where the.
With the
past
garage door. So what we
Garage
intend
door,
on
yeah.
doing is basically swapping 2 departments. We would take the IT department, would then occupy that area, which is more efficient for their type of work that they do, and to be more inclusive for the ISC room to be in the center of the school. And this is just permission to advertise.
Any other questions for Angela? I'll entertain a motion. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Item number C, consider, discuss, act upon a rescinding the request for proposals for the sale or lease of the town of Smithfield's landfill located at 0 Ridge Road, AP 42, Lot 91, for the sole purpose of installing a ground-mounted solar project. Mike Phillips. Please.
Good evening, members of the council. Mike Phillips, town planner. Before you, you have a memo requesting the rescission of the RFP. When we received 3 bids basically on the landfill lease or purchase option, and after looking at them and going through them with the review committee, it was decided to rescind it and reissue the RFP. Basically, what we saw was that the ownership option, the option to sell the land and to install solar on it, seemed to be the better financial model for the town. Unfortunately, the one applicant who did that option also put in a bid for the adjacent property, which was not part of the RFP. So that was, a disqualifying factor, which really left us only with one qualified bid. So we thought it best to put it back out with more emphasis on the landfill closure option, which would, deal with selling the land, capping the landfill, and then putting up solar. So that's what we're proposing.
So Mike, let me ask you a question. You said 3 bids, correct?
Yes, yeah, one of them didn't really have an adequate proposal that would be qualified.
So that's out.
Yeah.
The second one?
The second one had a proposal just to do the lease option for the landfill. They'd cap the landfill, and then we would lease them the land, and they would build a solar project.
And the third one was add the other lot to it?
Right, they proposed to purchase the property and install solar on both properties.
Okay.
So is the rebid going to be a purchase only without any lease?
Yes.
And is the rebid going to also be without the additional 12-acre lot, or does it include the 12-acre lot?
It includes both lots.
Mike, something here is not right for me. I don't think we should, in my opinion, I don't think we should add that second lot to the bid. I think we should save that. Here's the reason why. Suppose John wants to bid on this whole project, and John puts a solar farm on one lot. And now all of a sudden, John wants to put condos on the other lot. There's no stopping that.
We could deed restrict it for solar only.
But don't we have an ordinance right now, I believe that Councilwoman Toppy and Mike Ionati says that you can't put solar in the residential area?
The town is exempt from that ordinance.
Well, the town wouldn't be owning the property. The town
Well,
would be, there'd be new owners.
we would arrange the purchase so that the solar would be approved under town ownership.
So basically what we're doing is, by adding this extra lot on, we're approving a solar project for that lot, because we're gonna.
Well, that's the idea.
Because that's what they want, right?
Well, to pay for the landfill, you need solar, so.
Right, but how much solar?
Well,
you never went back to them and asked them, what would the amount be without the extra lot?
Well, we couldn't really do that because it wasn't a qualified bid, so.
Well, in any event, I don't think we should add the extra lot either. The extra lot, I've seen aerials of it, and in fact,
12 acres, right?
it's 12 acres. It would double the size of this proposal, because the landfill lot is 12 acres, so we'd be adding another 12 acres. And I've seen aerials of that second lot, and it's completely forested. And I think, so how many trees would we have to cut down? 1,000 trees to put in solar panels? I thought this was what we were trying to get away from. And also, that is a buffer for the homeowners that live along those property lines. Not only homeowners in Smithfield, but also homeowners in our neighboring town, North Providence.
Yeah, I mean, we could propose buffers to match our solar ordinance, and what they showed on the proposal left a significant buffer around the solar on both lots.
So, are we going to be cutting down trees now? I mean, basically, if we put this through like this, we're approving a solar project. We're saying that this second property, which is now zoned as, I believe it's an R80 zone.
Yes.
Residential,
Yep.
80, like 2-acre zoning. We're approving that, we're changing the zoning to put, by approving this, we're changing the zoning to allow a solar development on that property.
You're not changing the zoning, no,
Well, you said, well, then how would it be allowed then?
because the town is exempt from the ordinance.
Well, the town is exempt, but not the purchaser.
But what I said was that we would have to approve the solar project when it was under town ownership.
So by doing this, as I just said, we're approving a solar project for a property that's,
But we're not changing the zone. I mean, the zone stays as it
well,
is.
we're approving a solar project for
Circumventing
it.
the
So,
ordinance.
so, Mike, let me ask you this question. So if we can only put solar on the landfill and just sell the other property, but they can't do anything with, why would they buy it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know why they would buy it. They wouldn't. Yeah, if they couldn't do it solar on it, there would be no benefit in doing it. So without the solar, then we would just limit it to the
I
landfill lot.
think it's a benefit to the town to put a solar on the landfill. But I don't, in my mind, I don't see where we gain anything by that other 12
Well,
acres.
I mean, by putting this RFP out there, we could get proposals back and see what they would say about it. If we could reword it so that we could, two options. You put solar on just the landfill and buy both, or, buy one or buy both and, put solar on both, and we could.
Yeah, if you
we could
put it out
determine-
that way, what do you think's going to happen?
Well, you have to know the financial implications of it.
I would like to see that, get rid of the 12 acres as well from the RFP.
Yeah, I think we should be honest with the bidders. We're not interested in, the second lot, and we should put it out there and see how much they'll give us just for the lot with the landfill. That was the original proposal here. The original proposal, as we originally put it out, was for the property that contains the landfill to have a solar project go there and have in exchange, they're getting the property and they're getting, and they're going to cap the landfill. And to me, that's a reasonable project. That's 12 acres. That's plenty of room to put a solar project.
Chief?
Yes, I just want to, so Mike and I have discussed this a little bit. Keep in mind, we don't know what's in that ground. And I think for the sake, I know you don't want to, I totally agree with the buffer zone. I'm aware of 2 developers that have high interest in that, and they're willing to take on the full responsibility to close that dump, meet all DEM's requirements, and the town can wash their hands of it. If for any reason that 12 acres, and we don't know this, is contaminated, we're gonna, and DEM puts the requirements on these contractors or developer, they're gonna put them on us as well, and we're gonna have no option than to mitigate it. And that's gonna cost a lot of money. So I'm just throwing that word of caution out there. You're looking at several $1 million to mitigate that whole situation, and we could get drawn into that if it's on our property. So I'm just being cautious because I hate to see that happen. That's a lot of money where if somebody else is willing to take full responsibility, we don't have to worry about it.
Have we done testing on that, Mike?
I think there's peripheral testing on the edge of it, but it's pretty clear that where the actual landfill was. Once you get into that other lot, it gets really ledgy and it doesn't look like anything was the landfill there. There's probably some surface debris that, got, put on there, but there doesn't seem to be any landfill on that portion.
How long does it take to test?
I mean, you'd have to go out. I mean, DEM had done testing on the main landfill lot back in 2015. I don't know if they've done any on the adjoining lot, so.
Should we just test the lot first and then go back? Because it doesn't sound like there's interest here to include that lot. But the chief makes a good point, though. That's what I'm saying, yeah, you know, right.
Testing, once you know, then you got to clean it up.
This has been a huge contingent liability hanging out there for the town for decades, and the only way, obviously, well, the best way to address it would obviously be to have somebody else come in, take responsibility for the closure. And, you know, the town hasn't been pressed on this lately.
Well, I mean, we're all in favor of that, but how much, where does it end? You know, I mean, it's a 12-acre parcel. How much of the 12 acres does the landfill actually encompass?
On the front lot?
On the front lot.
It's a good portion of it. I'm not sure. There's an area of ledge there that isn't landfilled. So it's probably, on the order of 9 acres, I would imagine.
So, if some of it may have leached, we don't know where this stuff goes anyway. It leaches all over the place once you get into groundwater and everything else. So if we just leave that extra lot undisturbed, what's wrong with that?
Could we?
It's not like we're gonna build something there. We're gonna leave it
No, but
undisturbed.
when the DEM finally comes in, they will trace everywhere that's going. So that's the only potential risk, is that if it goes onto our property, then they will make us clean it up.
Michael, did they say when they responded to the RFP, what they were gonna do with that second lot?
Only the one proposer did. They showed solar on it.
So they wanted to put solar on the other 12?
Yeah. Yeah, a portion of it, probably 2/3 of it. They left the lower part.
2/3 of it?
Yeah.
So if we do testing on this lot and we find some type of whatever, contamination, that's something that we would be obligated to fix at that point because now we know it exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's on our property, so, yeah, and it's, most likely, you've got the North Providence landfill right next door. You've got salvage yards. You've got all kinds of complicating factors to how you're going to determine. Most of the contamination in the landfill portion is metals. It's heavy metals from just, appliances and metal being dumped there. There's really not a lot of hydrocarbon VOCs like you have at Davis Dump. It's as landfills go, it's fairly benign. And there haven't been any reports of groundwater contamination downstream, heading towards the west, basically towards, the Woonasquatucket River where it eventually drains.
And this purchaser is willing to take the liability for all of that, is what you're hearing, is what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yeah, this is one company that did bid on, that's what they do, they close landfills.
All right, and it's confirmed that that first 12-acre parcel is contaminated in some way, right? It's a
Yes.
landfill, okay.
Yeah.
Is it fair to assume this other 12-acre parcel is most is there some type of, I know you're guessing here, but is
Well-
there a guess as to if that's contaminated or not? You would assume
I
not?
mean, you got to define contaminated. I mean, like I said, there's probably some surface debris from the landfill that got put over there as well. Whether there's groundwater involvement, you can't really say until you do, test wells or whatever and do some probes of groundwater in the area. I mean, there are ponds to the north of that in property that isn't ours that is also involved and contaminated. So
Okay.
you don't know exactly where it's coming from.
So this remediation that the chief kind of is mentioning is mostly this water contamination that you're referring to and the metals is kind of the,
Well, the contaminant, what they would do with the landfill is basically cap it. They'll put some kind of a liner on it and bring in a soil cap. They bring in what is called bud materials, which is semi-contaminated, what they use for landfill caps down at the Johnson landfill. It may be soil that has a little bit of arsenic or lead in it, and they can use it for a cap for a landfill like this. So, and people pay to have it removed and, brought to a landfill. That's how some of the other revenue stream that will come to the town and the developer who's doing this is from these bud materials.
Mike, what did the RFP read? What was stated in the RFP? It stated that it was a dump that we wanted a cap?
Yes.
Put solar on, correct?
Correct, yes.
Why would someone think that if it was only that property, they were gonna add the other property to it? I don't understand that.
I don't know where they got that idea. I know that there were discussions with, various groups about, the property, and then I guess they assumed that the town owned that property. They did their research and saw that the town owned it, and maybe they made an assumption, so.
Would it be fair to say that if we put it out as two, well, as one, that you would get more interest to it? And maybe we could solidify the amount of solar on there? Like Mike said, who wants to go up there and have all the trees cut down?
Can I make a suggestion on top, tail that? We could do the two options, and then, make the second option, the inclusion of the lots be contingent on it not being contaminated. Can you do that? Or is that too complicated?
Yeah.
That gets you, okay, just a suggestion, I don't know.
My question is, why weren't you or the town concerned about contamination of the second lot with this RFP? The second lot's not included in this RFP.
With the second RFP, why, well, we don't really have a.
The RFP we're talking about right now, where we got the bids.
Yeah, I mean, really, there's no evidence that there's any contamination there beyond, some surface contamination.
So you're just speculating that there might be
Well, I mean,
contamination?
when you're talking about groundwater, the general groundwater flow is towards the river through that, underneath that lot. So if someone were to go and do testing, you might find that there was groundwater involvement from the lot. But on the surface, the landfill is not on that lot. Everything was buried on the front lot.
I mean, what value is the property to us if it's not included in the RFP? I'm just kind of like brainstorming this to myself. Obviously, there's a nature concern.
I think it's a big value. It's a big value because it's a buffer for the people, for the landowners, the homeowners. We're also able to protect that forest. I mean, it's very thickly forested there from what I've seen from the aerial photographs. And, it allows us to prevent another situation in this town like we've had before, where we have, a lot of trees being cut down to put in solar, which makes absolutely no sense scientifically, since trees suck carbon out of the atmosphere.
Yeah,
And
I'm with you.
put oxygen in. I mean, we don't want to do those kinds of projects. We want to do projects like the one on the first lot, which is on top of already disturbed land.
I'm wondering if this is a special, I agree with you 100%. Cutting down trees for this definitely does not make sense for solar in general. I'm wondering if this is a special circumstance because of this contamination issue, if we're on the hook for multiple millions of dollars to clean it up. I think that's a bigger disservice to the tax.
We don't know.
I know.
We don't have the information, so
Yeah.
how would we know? It's all speculation at this point.
Right.
Yeah, that we know. That, I don't think anyone is opposed to putting the solar project on the landfill property.
Yeah, I think long-term, it could be, if it's contaminated, right, all speculation, but if it is contaminated, it's a bigger disservice to the taxpayers to be on the hook for millions of dollars of cleanup instead of unloading the property, is kind of where I'm headed with that. I think this might be a special circumstance, is all I'm saying.
You're rolling the dice.
I understand, yeah.
Rolling the dice.
Mike, I'm sorry, how long did you say it would take to test, if we wanted to test it and then do this?
Well, I don't know what kind of
In
testing we
general?
would be doing.
Oh,
We'd
okay.
have to hire an environmental company to go out there and do
Oh, right.
sampling.
You have to go for an RFP for that? potentially, so it could be a long
Why don't you
time.
have DEM do it? They're gonna do it anyway, you said, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, DEM was supposed to go out and do more testing on the actual landfill site. For them to go on the other site, I don't know what their impetus is to go on that other site.
When you have it capped, okay, they're gonna have this cap. DEM is involved in that, right?
Yes.
So you're saying that DEM is gonna be trying to find out if there is groundwater contamination and where it's gone?
On the existing landfill site? Well, we're going to be responsible for monitoring. There's going to be monitoring wells put in, and once it's capped, and we're going to be responsible for, monitoring them.
Right.
Long-term, so.
But where does the liability develop? That's what I don't understand. Like, are they gonna actually test this second parcel of land, or what? I mean, how do we find out whether that's contaminated?
Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to ask DEM. I mean,
Well, I would think that any prospective purchaser that came along, if obviously the second lot were included, they'd have to do start with a phase one and then
yeah.
go out from there.
I mean, a phase one wouldn't even, they'd have to go right to a phase two and do testing.
Right adjacent to the landfill.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be foolish to buy it without doing some kind of testing, so.
Councilman, can we rescind it and then go on to the next piece? And that's where the.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. So I'll take a motion to rescind the request for proposals for the sale or lease of the Smithfield Town landfill. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Nays? No nays. D, consider, discuss, or act upon authorizing a request for proposal for the sale or lease of the town landfill located at 0 Ridge Road, AP 42, Lot 91, the sole purpose of installing a ground-mounted solar project.
I think the trees are worth protecting, and we shouldn't be making decisions on a hunch, but we should be making decisions based on data and facts. Is it contaminated or is it not? It's just where I stand.
Can we I think we can do an RFP, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, for both, but require the applicant to submit for both. Correct, right?
So two separate?
I think you can, I don't know, Anthony, is that true? Like, I think you can.
Yeah, but what's gonna
But-
happen?
But I'm
Require
on the
a
agenda,
buffer.
though.
What's gonna happen?
That's a problem.
What's gonna happen is you're gonna get, with the two-lot proposal, you're gonna get an amount this big, and with the one lot, you're gonna get an amount this big that's proposed.
I think
So-
what she's saying, if it is in fact contaminated, let's get rid of it. Even if we have to cut down trees.
Oh, can we require a buffer?
We don't know that,
Got to
though.
keep a buffer.
Through the negotiations, you can require a buffer. But through our history, if we can't figure this out, we had the Davis Superfund site, and what happened? It leached all through everything. That's what's happening there, and if you don't think it's happening there, and you want to take this and keep it, you go ahead. I'm not.
I think we should do the RFP for both, keep our options open. If applicants are inflating that number for both, so be it, but at least we can see both. In the meantime, maybe do some research, figure out if we can get some preliminary testing done, something like that, and just see if it's, any indicia that it's leaching at all. I think just study it a little bit further in the meantime while we're getting those proposals, because I agree with Councilman Winfield that we do not want to be in a situation where we're stuck with this contaminated land abutting a solar field, So just keep our options open, basically.
Is there a timeline on this that we have to sell it by, or?
No.
No.
Mike, real quick question. I don't know how familiar you are with the fidelity deed restriction on the properties on 7 and 116. I believe those are lifetime deed restrictions on that property, if I'm not mistaken. But could we, if we go down this road, can we deed restrict part of that property so that they can only overlap with their panels, like a quarter of an acre or an acre or something like that? Or is it, I'm just thinking about the Fidelity one, it limits what can actually go on the property. It doesn't allow for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a conservation easement, because when Fidelity went through there, they didn't have enough area, so they needed to deed restrict an adjoining lot and say, okay, we're going to preserve this lot to make up their coverage percentage. You could do something similar to that here and limit, where they could cut on the property, and we could deed restrict it in advance of the sale.
So they would still own the whole thing, but be deed
Right.
restricted? Okay.
Yeah, there would be a deed restriction on it. Or, buffering, we could, deed restrict that portion as a buffer, not to be touched, not to be cut.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I think that would make sense. If we can deed restrict it, if we then could include both lots, and if they can't, do anything with the second lot up to a certain point, then maybe that would be appropriate. But I think just to add the other lot in, that's giving them pretty much a license to put the solar in all the way on that second lot. But I think the RFP has to be worded correctly in order to do this, so.
You oversee the RFP.
Yeah, why don't we put it on, if we put it on for the next agenda, that'll give us a few weeks to work it out and have it come
Yeah,
before.
because the language is going to be very important for this.
Have it come back before the council.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I guess motion to table to the next council meeting?
Yes.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Item E, consider, discuss, act upon authorizing the purchase through the Houston Galveston Area Council Cooperative of one engine pumper from Greenwood Emergency Vehicles of North Attleboro, Massachusetts, for the price of $1,070,002 to be funded through the EMS third-party billing. Chief, welcome.
Hello, Matt Pearson, Fire Chief. So before you, we have the proposal for a new engine. We replace our engine 2 that's approximately 10 years old. This is to pretty much lock into the price now. Obviously, you've seen a huge increase in the last few years of fire apparatus. Back in 2020, correct me if I'm wrong, 2019, our last truck we purchased was $600,000, and now it's gone up over $300,000 within that 5 or 6 year period. So unfortunately, it's still a lag. It's taken about 3 years for this truck to be completely finished, hopefully with no hiccups, but that's where we're standing right now.
So there's no money up front?
No money up front.
Just
It's locking in, placing the order, locking right now.
Lock in the price?
Correct.
Is it also true, Matt, that the people that build these fire trucks are under scrutiny for price gouging?
Yes. So
What would that entail as far as getting money back from the time, if they're found guilty?
that part, I don't know. I think it's very preliminary. I know there's a senator from New Jersey and Missouri writing letters to these companies. It's actually a conglomerate group called Rev Group. They actually own all these different apparatus companies. That's causing, from some researchers saying it's causing these delays going forward. It's even delaying apparatus getting fixed. It's unfortunate.
So-
It's countrywide.
So this $1,070,000 will come out of billing?
For EMS billing, yeah.
Okay. No, there's actually nothing coming out of the budget?
No. Hope I spoke with Chief Seltzer about that.
Okay. Any questions of Matt?
Well, this is scheduled for, I have the capital improvement program here, fiscal year 2029,
Okay.
right? Which is in your letter,
For
it's July
2028.
1st, 2028.
So that's just the correction I need to make on my part, I guess.
No, I mean, it's correct here.
Yeah.
So by ordering it now, are we going to have to pay for it before fiscal
upon
year
delivery.
29?
So delivery date, it's like 1,100 days, so whatever that adds out to, yeah.
So we won't, we shouldn't have to pay for it until the dates in the capital improvement program.
No, whenever it's done, you gotta pay for it.
Right.
Whenever it's delivered.
Between 28 and 29, you estimate?
Yeah. I mean, everything's getting delayed, to be honest with you, unless something changes in the near future, which I.
So we'd be, the way we pay for it, because this is stretched out, it's 175,000 per year. So this would be over, and this is over, looks like two sections, like 5 years.
Yeah, the contract's
So
over 5 years.
You're going to propose to change that?
Yeah, so if the finance director puts $270,000 a year from the EMS billing in a capital reserve account for the next 4 years, it'll pay for the truck. And our EMS billing is running about 1.3 million. It's been going up. We went to a new service and the call volume's up. And we've been we cut back how much of the EMS billing we put into the budget as well. So we should be able to put this aside and pay it off when it comes in. We have to be very cautious about the funding source we've been using to borrow the money from ourselves. We're digging ourselves into a very big hole. And the finance director and I feel it's time to move away from that because we're depleting our reserves, and that's not a good thing.
So how would we finance this? Because they're going to want the money, the whole amount, right?
Right, we're gonna, for the next, you got 3.5 years, that we're gonna put money of 270 a year. It's gonna take starting now, it's gonna take 3.5 to 4 years to get the truck. That year we take, the most we would be down, the year we take the truck in is 270,000. Now, we could take it from the general fund and just pay it back immediately when the next cycle comes in for the next year, the billing.
So we're moving this 175 up to 275, and we're pushing it to fiscal year 26 to start then?
No, we're going in, our next budget is fiscal 26.
Right.
Right, that would be
So
the
it's-
first money set aside.
So it's going.
27, 28, and 29, everything, the money would be put aside.
So you said that 1.3 million in the EMS billing account right now? Is that what you
We're
said?
bringing in about 1.3 million a year.
So how much is in the account right now?
I don't know what's in the account right now. I don't have that.
That number, yeah, because we just changed over to a new company, so the statements are slowly starting to come in. We haven't really had a chance to sit down and.
So if we
add it
move
all.
if we move this is a lot of money to move to 26. If we move this to 26, are we going to be able to pay for all the other things that the fire department needs out of that account?
The only payments we have right now is what we've been paying right along. I think 2 of the trucks are gonna fall off in the next 2 years, and then we have 1 truck left to do payments on.
That's my concern also. If this comes in early, the payment terms, you have to pay 100% within 5 calendar days of the arrival. So last time in '21, you're right, you bought the other ladder, not the ladder, the pumper.
The engine.
For $612,000.
Yeah.
So do you recall how long it took to get that in?
It was about 2 years.
Was it 2
yeah,
years?
It was a long time.
It says it will be made approximately 425 days after receipt. So that didn't happen. Then if it was 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, I know, it got delayed.
So what's on here is they couldn't promise that, is what you're saying,
Yeah.
essentially. So they did offer a prepayment last time. Are they doing that
Yep,
this time?
that's in here as well. Yep, it's in that contract.
miss
That's
that?
attached, Yeah.
So the prepayment is where?
Um,
Is how much? Oh, yeah, the email at the end, I guess I need
Yeah,
more
that's, sorry, that's what it
context.
was.
So his email to you, starting with, I wish I had some better information for you. What is the context of that email?
I just asked, so if you follow down at the bottom, I just asked them, it just said, hope all is well, giving some supporting documents for information, so I can give you guys the most up-to-date information, if anything's gonna change in pricing or anything like that, and that's why he mentioned the tariffs and the $100,000 increase and stuff like that.
$100 increase?
100,000, yeah.
$100,000, okay.
Yep.
So if this comes in early, then what is the plan
If it comes,
as far as like paying for it?
we're just gonna go through EMS billing, we could choose
Well,
up to do, or.
so I'm proposing in this year's budget as well to we set up a capital reserve fund because we don't save any money. And I actually spoke to Sam today about it, is we put someone, like, I'm proposing 50 grand a year for starters. We have no capital reserve money. And we don't have a way to pay for stuff with money put aside. So I really want to see that move forward. So you'll have some money there, and you have the EMS bill. And if it comes in, if it came in a half a year earlier, I would think that would be the most. The way this industry is right now, I don't expect to see it. We'll be lucky to
I'd be
get it in this
surprised. I mean, to
timeframe.
put it in perspective, we had to order a wiring harness for one of the trucks. It's something for the steering wheel. A simple wiring harness that you should be able to get at Auto Parts store, it took over 3 weeks for it to come in. And that's a simple little tiny part that
It's probably going to get it's probably going to get worse.
I'm guessing it's going
parts.
to get a lot worse.
So they're concerned about the tariffs because the parts are coming overseas?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a mix, yeah. I mean, someone comes from overseas.
I would just feel more comfortable if I knew how much was in the EMS account. That way, if it did come in early, we know that you have that money. Other than that, you're on the hook for $1 million.
Well, we wouldn't, I mean, we don't have to accept it early.
Right, we could,
I mean, there's 90 days, they're going to have to hold it for us.
Well, no,
and
it
we could always
says,
refuse acceptance of it, but I think we'd be on the hook for 5%.
that's not what the payment terms say. The payment terms say within 5 days of arrival at Greenwood Emergency Vehicles. It doesn't say when you guys accept it. So
We
it's
never
when they
pay for these
arrive.
trucks until we accept them. We never have.
Well, I mean, I believe you, but the contract says otherwise, so why wouldn't they hold you to that?
Because they work very well with us. We've never had this problem.
Right.
I don't foresee any issues.
But if we did have to cancel this, we'd just be on the hook.
We
for
should change
5%.
the terms then,
Change, yeah, the
in
terms.
case there's someone else in
change.
charge or, whatever the case may be, because it's in black and white here. You don't want that to happen, just in case,
Yeah, because
That's my only
otherwise, it
concern.
says they can charge you 2% over the
Correct.
prime rate over the prime rate, 2% over the prime rate.
Right, that's a lot.
$1 million. That's a lot of money.
Is that a standard contract from them?
Are we able to see if we can get that language changed and then approve it from there? It just seems a little risky to do it this way.
We
with
can
this
try.
I'm
language.
sure, again, certainly send it back to them and say, yeah,
If
They
they would do
probably
that
will
for
do
you.
it because
Yeah.
we've given them a lot of business over the years and they're very accommodating.
That would be good, yeah.
So would it make sense to approve it pending modifications? Anthony? I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna wanna, obviously, subject to those
Yeah.
changes, yeah.
Right.
So we're asking them to get rid of that 2%.
No, I personally don't want to do anything, it's just me, subject to. I'd rather see it again and have this come before us again. Again, just me. So get rid of the 100% payment shall be made within 5 days of arrival at, and Chief, you said, what would we be changing it to? Subject to your acceptance? But why would
Yeah.
you leave a truck sitting there for a year?
Because there's a whole bunch of work they have to do on it when it comes into the dealer. And typically, it stays there for 4 weeks, typically. So the ladder and a pumper, I think, were there for at least a month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a while.
Yeah.
So there's some things they have to do there, so that's why I know this is their standard language, but typically it just, when it's ready, they deliver and we give them a check.
Chief, do you think, what's the turnaround that they could do this language change?
I would
If you
hopefully think sooner
guess.
I would hope fairly quickly, to be honest with you. I can give you a specific date. I mean, just my concern is just prices going up.
I know, I understand. No, I totally, and it's hard to say,
No,
I get it, it's like,
Yeah, no, and I understand, it's a lot of money.
That's the problem,
It's sticker
yeah.
shock when I first saw it, when they showed me
Yeah.
as well. I couldn't
Chief,
believe.
Chief, do you think you can get this all wrapped up by May 13th?
I tried my best, yeah. I'll reach out to the vendor first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay.
All right, let's move this to May 13th. Make a motion, move this to May 13th.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well,
Nay?
pending the changes, right?
Well, we just.
Yeah, pending-
Subject to those changes, yeah.
Item 12, public comment.
What about, John? What about, do we have to vote to change the name?
Okay, all right, okay. Excuse me for 1 second. Before we get the public comment, we need to move the May 6th meeting until May 13th. Have a second? Any discussion?
Can I just ask, are we going to meet twice, 2 weeks in a row on Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Nays?
Nay.
Ayes have it.
Good
Public
evening,
comment.
everyone. You've already put in quite an evening, so I'm going to get as straight to the point as I think I possibly can. On the subject of safety first, I'm Cynthia Mulvey, 17 Waterview Drive. My husband, Thomas Mulvey, and a friend who lives at Shadowbrook, Christine Satterwhite, penned a letter of 3 pages that was submitted to Chief Seltzer, Mr. Phillips, and the town council regarding, back in January, we wanted to see answers to questions that we consider to be quite a serious deficit of interest by the town at large. For what reasons, I can't surmise. And I'm going to read a letter that may be in need of updating. There may be developments that we're not aware of that have nullified anything that I think is factual here. So please correct anything you hear. But back on January 26th or 27th, we would like your counsel on the following at some point soon. The Sand Trace project, the biggest proposed subdivision in our town's history, has been reviewed numerous times over the last several years, creating many unanswered questions on public safety and planning. While, yes, the development has full approvals, we don't recall any detailed info on these questions. Number one, have condo documents been submitted that include protective annual transient occupancy frequencies, such as Airbnbs? If so, what are the annual limits of rentals per unit? In something this large, the size of about 5 Walmarts, you can possibly imagine the propensity of transient populations that may require additional challenges to police and fire that you may not have bargained for. It's our understanding that substantial drilling and blasting activities will be required to continue this project for the next 5 to 10 years. There is no mention of aquifers or any geologic study in the draft or the final environmental statement that was provided back 4 years ago during approvals. So the question is, with something that could be severe along the lines of activity, has the town or have the developers devised a plan to alert and communicate with abutters relating to these activities? Is there a warning system? Has any further testing been done on anything geologic since approvals were issued? This letter was also something that was conveyed to the planner on more than one occasion with no answers forthcoming. What are the potential effects to the residential homes specific to foundations and subsequent potential structural damages? And what are the estimated decibel levels and forces that could affect the aquifers and the geology of the area? So does the town have a plan to measure and document impacts as needed and subsequent potential structural damages? Would inspections be done prior to blasting so that you could have a before and after picture of what everyone's property looks like before this starts to take place? And this is whether it's this developer or any other. All right, I'm not specifying anyone in particular here, because for all we know, this could be under conveyance to a Toll Brothers. I don't even know. I'm just putting this out there. This project requires a substantial amount of construction and building material weights that could double loads on our roads and bridges, specifically the Stillwater Aqueduct number 248, which was built in 1929 and is scheduled for replacement in 2029. if it is in sufficiently good, workable condition, why is it being replaced? Was a question that Angela and I discussed a couple of weeks ago. Does the town have an estimated delivery schedule and timing of these deliveries of concrete, fill, roofing, all kinds of materials that are going to be required with the type of site being developed? And is traffic, if traffic and entry to the site is standing on that bridge, can you look at possibly creating capacity limits? Because I would envision each vehicle weighing a good 25 to 30 tons if it is fully loaded. I mean, it's not rocket science. You probably can fit 6 to 8 trailer beds on that surface of that bridge. I've also noticed that the sidewalk is impacted on each side of the bridge. There is an indentation of a good 1.5 inches where it's dropped. So unless there are some answers to my repeated questions about the result of the concrete test that was done by Jacobs Engineering on this bridge back in November, as to the tensile strength of the bridge and what it can do for us over the next 5 to 10 years. If the rating of this important artery is fair, that's still a concern for your neighbors. So we now have increased traffic in general. What is adequate under normal conditions but doesn't specify maximum loads? I've gone around and around with DOT a number of times, and I don't get the answers that I think the neighborhood deserves about this. I think that you deserve to know what the potential impacts on your public are of this project. And if a traffic light is added to the Log Pleasant View intersection, the traffic may back up in both directions, impacting several residential streets and businesses on Pleasant View, including children entering and exiting that karate studio on the Log Road side. What is the RIDOT developer town plan for this? I think that should be thoroughly vetted and settled on before anything else of any substance happens. And we also wanted to see if impact fees are in fact going to cover a new wastewater treatment plant, if that is needed with the amounts of development going on now that are already approved going forward into the future. Are you going to need sidewalks to accommodate kids trying to walk to and from school at the same time that construction traffic is entering and exiting that site? To me, I wake up at night thinking about this. I'm sorry. I go over there and I look at it and it just doesn't seem like something that is going to benefit the town. Because whatever inconsequential gains you have in low to moderate income, density bonuses, it doesn't seem to add up point for point with what could happen over there. Then we have the access point on Man School Road, which would be planned only for delivery of construction materials as well as an emergency entrance. Has this been changed? The neighbors should know this. The new proposal may have been approved to create separate entrances and exits, one on Log Road and one on Man School Road. Which road will be the entrance and the exit? So then, over the last 5 years, during this entire process, there have been many questions about pedestrian safety. If you have the constant, what is the impact on the Log Road Fire Station on increased traffic patterns of construction vehicles, including all passenger, contractor, materials delivery trucks, and yes, bicycles? How is that going to work? Many of these questions have been going back and forth in hearings, and in some cases, the request for additional or updated information has not been provided. We're asking our town's leadership to provide, in writing or in copies of documents, the answers to these questions. Please provide the most recent documentation. So we respectfully ask that these questions receive a response by April to our emails here. We hope these topics and their forthcoming answers provide informative content to our town and state in the coming months. The town is a wonderful community of great people, businesses, and location to many experiences that have a positive impact on its residents. We appreciate the effort and diligence of our town's employees and hope that we receive the same respect in kind. And in spite of repeated requests for updates, is it being discussed, where are we? We haven't heard a thing. So irregardless of who develops this site, the size of 5 Walmarts, do your taxpayers and residents deserve to be fully informed as to what could happen to them and their properties for the next 5 to 10 years? And I would like to submit this copy for the record. Thank you.
Hang on one second. Thank you.
So I'll answer you. So Mike Phillips and I have been through all your questions to get the answers to the best of our ability. But I'm going to warn you right now, we don't have answers for a lot of those things because I'll give you a perfect example.
Yep.
We cannot predict what type of trucks are going to carry materials into the facility because we don't know how the materials are going to come, for example. Are they going to buy large trusses or are they going to build them on site? So just be aware, you're going to see the answers based upon the best of our knowledge. And we wrote everything down and you'll have it within a week easy, but most likely by the end of the week, it's all set to go. So we did review all your questions.
Thank you. So the trusses aren't part of the specs?
No, my point is, we don't know how the buildings are going to be built.
Right.
So for example, you got truss construction, well, most likely they're going to purchase them, but they may build them on site.
Right.
So now it's coming in a smaller load of wood versus a large, we don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
And we can't tell them.
Well, I'm also alluding to roofing, fill.
No, I
concrete.
understand, but
It's just an endless.
we can't predict, some of those things we just can't, you'll see
Yeah.
in the response. to-
All right.
to
Well, I
your letter,
appreciate hearing
okay?
that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
On that subject, I had a question about blasting. How do we notify residents of blasting? Is it abutters? Is it people within a radius?
500-foot radius from the blasting site, they have to be notified.
And
Anybody beyond that, they don't have to. Now, we set something up with Shadowbrook where we have the blasting company contacting the property management director for that site, and they notify them, I think, 2 to 3 hours before they blast, so they can notify all of the residents by whatever means they so choose to notify them.
Right, but I'm looking at the Sand Trace project. There are a lot of people that could be affected by blasting because of its
So-
location. And, I think, we should, who determines what the notification requirements are for blasting?
State Fire Marshal's
State Fire
office.
Marshal. Is there a state statute on it?
It's all governed by the.
And it's a notification requirement? or-
Yeah, and anybody within a 500-foot radius of the blasting site has to be notified that there's blasting going to be taking place in that area.
But I think what Mike is saying, who notifies? Is it you,
No,
the town, or
the blaster. The blaster's responsible. So the blaster, typically they drop off, what they've done in the past with the different projects we've had in town, they'll drop off the information about the blasting, who they are, how to contact them, that kind of thing. But like I said, with Shadowbrook, we made special arrangements. They are outside the 500-foot radius, but we've asked them to notify them, and they complied with it. So we can ask them to do things like that, and this particular company that's in town right now is pretty decent to work with.
But the jurisdiction falls under the state fire marshal.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Cynthia, I just want to let you know, I'll call you this week I have been in touch with DOT, so I'll update you on that.
I would appreciate knowing more about the responsibility for sidewalks. It seems like there should be a producer responsibility, where the same developer who now owns the property had a windfall of $2.65 million over a school library recreation bond for the land that is now held by the land trust. That land turned out to be unbuildable according to your planner. I would respectfully submit that he consider putting the sidewalks in and doing the work, because this is an outsized impact. And based on the fact that there's no more COVID relief money or any other cushion to fall back on, if the town didn't have a requisite and the development was passed through without the requirement for sidewalks on Long Road, or a traffic plan at the plaza, I think it's incumbent on the developer to provide that. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Bobby Nikolopoulos, 26 Deerfield Drive again. Thank you for your time. I wanted to bring two small things to the town council's attention. These are coming as recommendations mainly, but would like to hear some feedback on them as well. The first one is pretty simple. It's always been kind of shocking to me that it doesn't exist in the town, but since the town is going through an FY26, FY27 budget review, it would make sense to consider a new role that being developed of a zoning official or zoning officer, sorry. This individual would have that authority to drive around, check on the overgrown shrubs, check on the things like garbage on properties. They would have a vehicle to do this full-time, right? It's not a part-time basis. Many other towns already have this role existing. The town council could create an annual renewal of priorities and objectives. So every year, the town council would get together and determine what the priority should be alongside with their standard R&R that this individual would have through some sort of, new role creation. Obviously the details need to be discussed and ironed out. Now, I know it sounds scary anytime somebody hears zoning officer, and it sounds like a bad thing. I see it more of like a proactive versus reactive role, where they could be focused on solutions versus the penalty. Obviously, the enforcement portion of it is very important, as we'd want to maintain the aesthetic of the town. I mean, it's no surprise, right? Smithfield is a town people work hard to move into. We should try to maintain that, is what I'm saying. And it goes back to the comprehensive plan that the town has put together on what the ideology and mission of the town should be, right? The culture of the town. So I just want to put that out there. I think the town council should consider that. I think that would help the town in many different areas.
Hang on one second, I believe we already have that.
Yes, we have a full-time zoning official. That person falls under our building official. So, and he does do that. He's constantly dealing with signs, trash on property, anything that's in our zoning ordinances that's enforceable. If he gets a complaint, obviously he looks into it, but he's out on the road quite a bit too. And if he sees something, he'll make the proper notification. So that is part of his job.
Okay, because when I was looking at the town's ordinances, it looked like this individual is more so like administrative individual versus like a deputized, on the road, checking properties, enforcing.
Those are both, he's administrative as well as he is on the road as well.
Awesome, that's good to hear. And then the other quick item I had is, this actually started a while ago. Around early February, I had reached out to DPW on an unrelated matter. While speaking with Laura at the DPW, her full name is Laura Field Swallow. We got into the discussion about the paving project that the town is undergoing. I know there was RFP in 2022 for repaving, getting the roads. I mean, it's quite evident the roads need to be maintained. It's no surprise. And I know based on the budget, we've been on a steady increase of budgeting appropriate, and I think it's necessary, right? But it's been increasing to the upwards beyond what at least I see as like $1 million. I think it needs to happen, but some transparency would be great for the town. I did ask if there's a schedule that exists on which roads are going to be repaved and how we're going to be notified. I was told that notification comes like a couple of days before, door to door with sticky notes on a door. That may work for some, but not for everybody in town. I think some advance notice would be helpful. Also, it would behoove the town council to communicate that there is an entire plan laid out for the whole town of when the roads will be renewed based on their traffic, their current wear conditions, so on and so forth. I did try to get this information myself. I was told that it would eventually make it on the website. So I did reach out to Ralph Farrer, the deputy director. I did not hear back. I reached out on April 3rd. I waited a week. I reached back out on April 11th, this time referencing Laura in the email, just because Laura was the one who had mentioned to me that that was something that the DPW already had. I think it was like a spreadsheet or something of that nature that breaks down when the paving projects would happen. So I'm just coming here to see if there's any way the town can get some transparency in when these projects will occur, what roads are prioritized, and why they were prioritized.
I mean, I can answer that question. So the list is being established now. Some of the roads are being done right now. So Gene Allen, our DPW director, is going to provide the complete list for our IT director to put it on the website, but it's not done yet. As far as notification, they try to do the best they can, but sometimes if the contractor is ahead of schedule or behind schedule, sometimes they move on because it's cost us a lot of money to keep his equipment on the road, because it's all done, we hire a company to come in. So I know they do try to notify, but sometimes, like, it may be impossible, say, next week we're gonna be on your road. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'll talk to Ralph tomorrow and Gene as well, just to make sure we're doing it properly. But I know the list, and they prioritize it based upon the condition of the roads. And Gene has gone through a program to determine, he's rated all the roads. Unfortunately, it depends upon how much money per year we can put into the project. But right now, we're slated to put in 1.1 million this year, if the budget goes through as is.
Okay, thank you. And the last recommendation I would make is because I know how these things, I deal with projects all the time, so sometimes they're early, sometimes they're extensively late, so it's very hard to pinpoint a week, let alone a day, right? Maybe at least at a quarterly basis to start, to let everybody know, hey, this is the area of the town we're going to be looking at doing some maintenance work on. I think they've been pretty good. They've been marking the roads. They've been very friendly to, but they're doing one road next to Deerfield now, I believe. And they don't seem to close off the entire road, which helps. But I think some notice would be helpful for the homeowners, because I'm waiting to see when I'm going to be the homeowner that has to deal with that, a repaving. And I guess one thing that's not being considered is the curbs, right? Homeowners, right now, they're using asphalt, they're creating a lump. I would like to be there, so if they pull out the curb, I can have my landscaper make sure that I have an edge and not, a ramp down or a ramp up, and I think there's been situations I've seen around town where water pools because of that, or just properties end up looking poor because the curb hasn't been considered into the property well. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn.
Second.